My role at the firm is primarily to do premarital agreements. I've been doing that since 2019. I sort of went into semi-retirement and limited my practice at that point. Prior to that time, I had done full litigation, mostly in family law after the year 2000. Prior to that, I did family law, I did personal injury law, I did insurance defense work, quite a variety of things. But after 2000, I started to focus a little bit more just on family law. My dad worked for the phone company, so I grew up in a lot of places. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Had asthma as a kid. They said move to the mountains. We moved to the mountains of New Jersey and lived near a place called Faison Lakes in Butler, New Jersey for 3 years. Turned out that wasn't so good for the asthma. They said try a drier climate. We came to Arizona. Lived in Tucson from 60 to 64. Moved to a small town called Kearney, Arizona for a year. It's a mining town halfway between Phoenix and Tucson. And then in 66, we moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, and I was a sophomore in high school by that point and pretty much grew up at that point, mostly in Scottsdale. In 2014, I was at the end of the lease where I was located. I was in a small practice with another attorney, and since the lease was about to expire and I didn't see a reason to renew it, I started looking around for other alternatives. I interviewed with Scott, and about a month later he called up, and apparently the attorney in the Scottsdale office had just resigned. So I said, well, great, I'll come to work for you. Take great pride when we actually get a thank you note from a client. That doesn't happen too often in family law. But back in the 1990s, I want to say about 96 or 97, I had completed a term as the president of Scottsdale Leadership, and found out there was a need for volunteer legal services at a place called the Paiute Neighborhood Center in Scottsdale. And I went to the Scottsdale Bar Association and said, why don't we establish a monthly legal clinic here at the Paiute Center? And it's still going. Each month, attorneys from the Scottsdale Bar Association go to the clinic and provide a half-hour consultation to people for free. It's the second Tuesday of every month. And the firm, since I've been here, we volunteer and we provide staffing for the legal clinic in December each year as part of our outreach. And so that, I think 90% of the thank you notes I've ever received have come from clients that I counseled at the Paiute Legal Center. When I first started practicing, I was hired by a gentleman who proceeded to go out of town for 6 weeks when I started work there. So I had no supervision. He left me with one job, which was to write an appellate brief. It took me a week or two to get that done, and I got that done. And so I was sort of left unsupervised for a while. And one day a client walked in and said he was there for his hearing. Oh, what hearing is that? Because no one had calendared it on the calendar. Well, the hearing turned out just fine because it was a relatively minor sort of thing, an administrative hearing, and I was successful in representing the client. But I immediately went back to the office and went through every file in the office to calendar all the events that had never been calendared and tried to organize the things, and realized you really can't rely on others to have done what you think they should have done, which would be to calendar dates when they come in. So I think that colored my practice very much so, and that never make assumptions. If you haven't done it yourself or looked into it yourself, you better. In order to be prepared for the case, you really need to do the preparation yourself, not by somebody else. Well, the big thing I do is stand-up comedy, and I've been doing that since the 1990s. My big claim to fame is I won a contest in 2001 called the Funniest Person in the Valley contest. And my prize was $1,000, and I got to open for Wanda Sykes at the Tempe Improv for 6 shows. So I've been doing stand-up comedy ever since. Earlier this year, I was at the Santan Ballroom, 220 people. And they left. So it's fun to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And I do have wonderful stories about people that come to me after a show. In Marana last year, I did a show. A lady came up to me afterwards. She said she brought her neighbor to the show because he'd been sick for about a year and he hadn't laughed very much. I think he maybe had cancer or something. And she said, we made him laugh, and thank you for doing that. And that was a bigger reward than anything else. 1989, I was sitting in Candlestick Park for the World Series game between the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants when an earthquake hit. And they canceled the game. We survived, obviously, but the funny thing about it was that a local newscaster named Frank Camacho had contacted me ahead of time, knew I was going to go. I took my 11-year-old son, and he met us when we got there, filmed us buying concessions and that sort of thing, and then said, well, I'll come back and talk to you later. Well, the earthquake hits. He's there within 2 minutes, got us on national television. My son was a celebrity at school for 2 weeks. We drove to LA overnight, flew back to Phoenix in the same clothes we were wearing from the previous night, and people were recognizing us at the Sky Harbor Airport because we had been on local television within like 15 minutes, so everybody knew we were fine. This was way before cell phones and instant communications of any sort, 1989.